Welcome to the video. I hope you guys are doing well wherever it is that you are. On this video, we're going to discuss Goldman Sachs hosting a client seminar where we're going to be discussing hyperinflation, Bitcoin, gold, very, very interesting things. So we're going to take a look at this article. We're going to take a look at their actual report they're putting out. Then I also want to show you guys how people are getting very flip-floppy, and more analysts are coming out and saying to either start buying Bitcoin, acquiring Bitcoin. But I also really want to focus on how they're very flip-floppy. And I'm going to bring up where Jamie Dimon, I know probably a lot of you guys know this, maybe some of you don't, where he gets very flip-floppy as well, where a year ago, he called Bitcoin a fraud, but today we can clearly see that he does things regarding Bitcoin, and he's investing into blockchain and all of that type of infrastructure. So with that said, let's get into the video. This is my very first video on this channel, so if you enjoy it, a like would be amazing, and if you comment down below, maybe you'll be the first, second, third subscriber. Again, this will be the first video uploaded, so welcome to the channel. But I'm not going to bore you guys with that anymore. Let's get right into this. So Goldman Sachs discuss Bitcoin in client seminar. Financial advisory firm Goldman Sachs has announced it will host a client call to discuss gold, Bitcoin, and inflation with its customers. Goldman Sachs will discuss the powers of Bitcoin. All three topics are likely on many investors' minds right about now. Inflation is a big topic that's bouncing back and forth between traders, considering the coronavirus led to a $2 trillion stimulus package 2 months ago. That saw many Americans receive individual checks of around $1,200. I don't know about you guys, but I'm actually still waiting on my stimulus check. Probably will never arrive. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have received your stimulus check. While this move was clearly designed to aid in America's economic suffering, many analysts have decreed the move, saying it's not likely to solve any major problems and that the government cannot simply print money out of thin air the way that it did. I agree, guys. I mean, when you're printing money, it's putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. It's the same thing they did in 2008. It works in the short term, but it's not going to work in the long term. It's never worked in any other society, in any other empire. It always eventually fails. I could go deeper into that, but that is a completely different topic for a completely different video. They're worried that moves like this could potentially put heavy burdens on the US dollar and lead to inflation and other economic issues. As a result, many, such as Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki, are now advising average everyday traders to put their money into assets such as gold and Bitcoin, guys, which I think is very interesting. This is mainstream adoption, right? I remember years ago reading Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad book for the first time. It changed my life, but there was no mention of Bitcoin, and it's more standard things, more old school things in there, but that nonetheless they work. Not bashing it at all, not bashing anything old school, but I mean in that book they just don't talk about cryptocurrencies, but now they're pushing to invest into a new asset class, that asset class being Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And it's very weird that you are also seeing people always tying gold and Bitcoin together. I think the more that people see and the more people advise buy gold and Bitcoin to fight hyperinflation and the inflation that is coming, it almost gives Bitcoin another perceived value, because most people already view gold as having value. They acknowledge it, whether they own it or not. They do acknowledge that gold has value, has an intrinsic value. And just the fact of seeing Bitcoin next to gold, that's going to do something in people's minds. It's influencing the way people think. It's influencing people to think that Bitcoin is just as good as gold, if not better. So they believe that both have the power to hedge against inflation and keep wealth and money safe during times of economic strife. We're going to scroll down here. We're just going to skip over this. Actually, Goldman Sachs' client call will be hosted on May 27th. Chief Investment Officer of the company, Sharmin Mossavar-Rahmi, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, will host the call with the aid of Jason Furman, an econ professor at the famed Harvard Kennedy Business School. Jan Hatzius, chief economist and head of global research at Goldman Sachs, will also offer advice during the event. It's interesting to see Mossavar-Rahmi play a role in a call having to do with Bitcoin, considering 2 years ago he commented that he saw no value in either Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general. Now it looks like he's stepping onto the digital bandwagon. Guys, we're going to talk more about this later, and we're going to talk about more about the flip-floppiness later that we see with a lot of people, which I mean, it's to be expected, but we're starting to see them flip-flop a lot, and they're getting called out on it, and it's just starting to look very, very bad. starting to look bad. Let's go over to the report here. This is on Twitter from Mike Dudas. It's happening. Goldman Sachs, implications of current policies for inflation, gold, and Bitcoin. So I believe this is something they probably sent out, like the invitation to their clients. I think, U.S. economic outlook, just reading this, U.S. economic outlook and the implications of current policies for inflation, gold, and Bitcoin. There's a lot of things happening right now in the world. There's a lot of money being printed. There's just a lot of ridiculousness going on. And it's my personal belief, and it looks like it's becoming the belief of Goldman Sachs here, as they make the switch and as they host these meetings, they host these client calls, and they just put out more things like this, where you start to realize the dollar is in fact losing value. It is what it is. It's losing value. And if you hold dollars, you're losing money. You're losing money to inflation. You're losing money to purchasing power of those dollars. Holding cash just looks more and more like the route you don't want to go. It looks like cash really just isn't going to be king forever. This is another article from Forbes, same thing, just it's from Forbes, but they had something interesting in here that I want to show you guys. Paul Tudor Jones, who revealed some days before Bitcoin's third halving that he is long Bitcoin futures. In a letter to investors, Jones espoused his belief that Bitcoin will play a growing role as a hedge asset during a worsening economic crisis that has left 40 million Americans out of work. Guys, I want you to read again here that it will play a growing role. Growing, okay? So to me, as I'm reading that, he's inferring that this asset class is going to grow. If it's going to play a growing role as a hedge asset, that also says to me growing role that money is going to continue to be printed. They don't see governments stopping the printing of money, which means the value of your dollar is going to go down. The purchasing power is going to go down. You're going to be losing more money to inflation. So, the dollar growing or mainly declining and Bitcoin growing. I think that's what these people are trying to basically say. So the great monetary inflation, as Joan calls it, will be an unprecedented expansion of every form of money, unlike anything the developed world has ever seen. An unprecedented expansion of every form of money, unlike anything the developed world has ever seen. It's just really weird that they're using language like this, guys. Again, like things like if anyone was here around 2017, everyone was trash talking it. And so I want to move back into that again. If we come back over here, again, remember, we just read it's interesting to see Mosavi Rami play a main role in a call having to do with Bitcoin, considering 2 years ago, he commented that he saw no value in either Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general. No value. Do you know who else saw no value in Bitcoin 3 years ago? Jamie Dimon. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon lit the internet on fire yesterday after his comments on Bitcoin suggested the cryptocurrency is a fraud and that he would fire any employee trading Bitcoin for being stupid. So in the same instance here, while Jamie Dimon was calling Bitcoin a fraud, and I remember I was actually invested in Bitcoin at the time. I was there reading the news when Jamie Dimon called Bitcoin a fraud. I remember a week later, people were starting to expose and show that people were that JP Morgan was buying Bitcoin. So when I looked up this, so I could try to find that and show it to you guys. And if we read this here, after a few harsh statements from executive Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley purchased Bitcoin ETNs. According to public records of Nordnet trading logs, the two associated firms, JP Morgan Securities Ltd and Morgan Stanley, bought roughly 3 million euro worth of XBT note shares. Interestingly, after that, recent regulatory crackdown in China and the statements from JP Morgan senior executive Jamie Dimon talking trash about Bitcoin, his firm bought the dip on September 15th. In fact, out of all the companies on the list, like Goldman Sachs and Barclays, the JP Morgan team of buyers purchased the most XBT notes, the most. And if we go down here, if you guys want to zoom in or whatever it may be, even maybe I can zoom in here, bought most JP Morgan Securities Ltd. You have Morgan Stanley here, Nordnet, Credit Suisse Securities. So you have these major corporations, these big banks actually investing while they're telling you it's a fraud and he will fire employees for being stupid. They are buying at the same time. And now in even more recent news, less than 2 years later, Dimon is pushing his company headfirst into the crypto space. The bank is launching its very own digital coin. So there's that as well. I believe it's going to be a CBDC, central bank digital currency. I believe that's the coin that they are looking to list. I know that they also have a bunch of patents that they put up. They tried to patent basically like a Bitcoin lookalike for so many times, and they kept getting rejected. So I think what they're doing now is they're doing a CBDC coin. If you guys want to learn more about that and more about what exactly Jamie Dimon is doing there, let me know in the comments below, and I'll make a video diving deeper into that. With that said, guys, that's basically all that I have for today. Again, this is the first video on this channel, so if you like this video, thank you so much. You are one of my first likes. If you guys like this, I'm gonna be covering crypto news, investing news as much as I can, so give the channel a subscribe, give it a shot, and hopefully you take a ton of value from this channel. All right, so I will see you guys on the next one.